So I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize for allergy season and herbs is that it's not as simple as taking a medication for your allergy symptoms. With herbs, first of all, you need to make sure that you're using the right herb because there's so many different herbs that can help during allergy season. And the other thing is that during allergy season are going to be a lot more effective if you start taking them sooner before the allergy symptoms even start.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's interesting. You've had experiences with that, right?
Yeah, so Urban Moonshine used to make an allergy blend, which was amazing, and I would buy many, many bottles, but then they stopped, so I had to make my own. And I have learned from experience that it really helps to start taking them a couple of weeks. A month early is best, but sometimes we miss that mark. And so when it's still kind of chilly out is the time to be like, oh, spring is coming, the pollen is coming. Start taking those herbs so that they can work in your system and your body can get used to it and it can work its magic. So this year I was good and I started probably a couple weeks ago. And I'm hoping that I will not get that first spring allergy headache because I have thought ahead and started taking the nettles, the reishi, and my body will have a chance to kind of, what's the right word? Can't think of it at the moment. It's
just kind of get used
to it. Things will balance out
Yeah.
and not be off balance. Yeah. So I'm working on balancing my system ahead of time so it's ready for those.
So what's your experience been with that blend?
It's been really good. It's mostly nettles and reishi, which kind of have an immunomodulating effect and also kind of an antihistamine-ish effect to help you feel better. And I've also had to tweak it over time a little bit as I learn more. I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw in a little goldenrod or a little bit of this and that. And sometimes it's whatever I have on hand, since one of the items in there is like a bitter that helps keep things flowing. And so if I don't have the artichoke leaf, I might throw in burdock or dandelion or whatever suits my fancy. So it does change a little bit over time.
Right.
But I make a big old half-gallon jug of that and start taking it in March and keep on going through September, and it's been a lifesaver.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's interesting. The way I understand that reishi works is that it's kind of immunomodulating, so it helps keep our immune system from overreacting, like in the case of allergies, or underreacting in the case of people getting sick all the time. So it kind of helps keep us in the middle.
No, it's all about balance, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like the way I kind of explained to me is that the polysaccharides in the reishi kind of look like a pathogen in our intestines when we ingest it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just sort of activates our immune system to be on alert, be on the ready, but not overreact.
Yes.
And so that's the interesting thing.
Keeps it awake. Yeah. Exactly. So it doesn't get sleepy and let things in. Yeah.
Right. But that process takes time.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is why to start taking it. Yeah.
Yes.
Ahead of time.
Yeah, if I wait until I get that first allergy headache, it definitely takes a few days for my blend to kick in and help me feel better.
Right.
So this year I've been good about okay, I need to start it now.
Yeah.
Spring has sprung in Vermont and it's getting warm, so.
Exactly, but people need to be careful too with reishi because some people may be taking medications that it interacts with, or it's very drying.
Mm.
And so if people are already kind of dried out or tend towards getting dry, it can be too drying.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and what about nettles? What do you know about nettles?
Mostly I know that the tincture is great for allergy help, but a lot of times what people are looking for are the nutrients in the nettle, and so then you want to do a big long infusion with the leaf, like a strong tea that you sit overnight, and that you get all the other benefits from it that way, because those things are water soluble versus the alcohol soluble components that act sort of like an antihistamine. So, so for the most part, you don't want to take the nettle tinctures. It's for most of the benefits you're looking for, you won't get it that way. So I found that really interesting.
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting too because I do hear that people always saying use a fresh nettle leaf tincture, like a tincture made of the fresh nettle leaf because it preserves the constituents in the fresh plant rather than making a tea with the dried plant. Or the other thing people say is to take a freeze-dried capsule. So it's like they have the fresh leaf and freeze-dry it, and that somehow preserves the fresh constituents that are lost in the drying process. But I've definitely met people here in the shop at Railyard who say that they just drink nettle leaf tea and it helps them with their allergy season symptoms that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
So I still believe that probably the fresh plant tincture is probably stronger, but for this purpose we're talking about, but that I've definitely seen that the dry leaf infusion can work as well. Yeah.
Yeah, my plan this time around is to do both. So I drank some nettle tea this morning. I took my tincture this morning. I figure it won't hurt, and I can use those other benefits in nettle anyway. So I figure why not? It's just been very nettle's just been calling to me a lot recently, and so I'm like, okay, it's time to drink some tea.
Yeah. Me too. I put it in my tea blend this morning. And yesterday. Yeah, because it's good for this time of year.
I also think it's important to remember that a lot of times tea is helpful because you're consuming all that liquid, and so it helps keep things flowing in your body and flush stuff out. So
definitely, and nettles in particular, because the way nettles work is it's so nutrient rich, mineral rich, that in order to bring our water back into balance in our body, like the osmotic gradient, needs to be functioning to remove the excess minerals in the system, and so it flushes water out of our body. So it is kind of gently detoxifying in that way, and that can kind of relieve the overall inflammatory burden on the body.
Yeah, because nettle leaf is a diuretic, right?
Yes. Yeah, because of the high mineral content. Yeah.
So just good for all kind of parts of your body.
Yeah. And I like it on today's a cold, a cool rainy spring day here in Vermont, and it's considered a warming and drying herb, so it kind of balances out that cool damp season. I like this quote from Nicholas Culpeper, who was a herbalist in the 1600s who wrote Culpeper's Complete Herbal, a very famous book, published for hundreds of years. And basically it says that nettle helps to dry up the phlegm that winter has left behind. It's acknowledging that in this transitionary period after winter, we often get these phlegmatic, mucousy conditions, and so nettle helps to keep that in check.
It's true. It's tricky this time of year sometimes to know if you're catching a cold or just having allergy reactions. So that can be a little confusing, and you just have to make your best guess and just make some nettle tea because it's good for everything.
Exactly.
So I do have to say, today, I added linden to my nettle tea just because I find recently I've just been very dry. I just seem to always need to drink more. So to try to counteract that dryness of the nettle, I threw in the linden, and so then my tea was a little bit demulcent. So I think for my constitution today, that was helpful.
Yeah,
it tastes good.
Exactly. I often put licorice in my tea with nettle because it's not super moistening, but it kind of counteracts that dryness, that excessive dryness of the nettle. Or you can add honey or marshmallow leaf or other demulcent plants. So that's interesting because some people have symptoms which are more damp and some people have symptoms which are more dry, right? So for allergies, the damp symptoms are the excess mucus production, people who have constant runny nose, blowing their nose, lots of congestion, and that is something that you would use a certain set of herbs like nettles in particular or reishi that are drying to help sort of dry that out, or to help expel the mucus. Elderflower is also really good for that, but then there also could be more of a dry, sort of irritated allergic state, when somebody has not so much mucus, but is watery eyes or itchiness or sneezing. Which do you sort of fall under?
I definitely get itchy eyes and been
Yeah.
wondering how to counteract that a little better.
Yeah.
But I find that as long as if my nose is running a little bit, then I fare better versus if it gets too stopped up, then I get a headache. So I prefer if I'm a little bit runny.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound great, but so yeah, I think I'm a little more on the damp side. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's that third category when things are kind of just stuck.
Yeah.
So, and I learned these 3 categories from Jim McDonald, who's a great herbalist. So, it's a good resource. He used to have some stuff online about this, which probably is still online. But it's like the stuckness in the sinuses. Then you get that sinus headache.
Yeah.
It's a whole other thing, right? And then so, what have you found helpful for that?
I have to say, we make that sinus steam blend, and I reach for that. Like the minute things start getting stuffy up there and it starts to hurt even just a little bit, because doing something at the first sign of trouble is better than waiting till you get really stuffy and gross. And so I find I just do that steam bowl thing, and it just clears it right up. I don't usually need to do it too many times, and it just kind of helps get things flowing again.
And how do you actually do it? So we'll walk us through it. What does it look like?
So you get a bowl,
Yeah.
and I'd say maybe 2 cups of water. I don't go too crazy on the amount of water because you don't need a ton. You just need enough to make some steam. Mm-hmm. And then like a small handful of herbs, and my favorite beach towel. And I turn on some good music because you should do it for a good 5 to 10 minutes. It's kind of hard to do 10 minutes. So I just get my hot water, throw my herbs in there, and then I stick my face over it, put the towel over my head, and listen to a few songs until I get bored, pretty much. But ideally, you want to be under there to the point where your nose is running and it's all gross, because that means that things are flowing. Right. So don't be afraid of getting a little runny.
Yeah, exactly. But also be careful not to get burned, because if you get too hot of a temperature, it can be.
I don't find that to be too big of a problem. Usually I'll just take my little saucepan and I just have to make sure not to touch the saucepan. But generally the steam is, it's nice and warm, but it's not usually too hot, or it doesn't take long to cool down.
Yeah. I've had that problem, so I think it depends upon how much water you're using.
Yeah, probably.
If you use more water and it's fresh off the boil, it's going to stay hot for longer. True. Whereas you made a good point, you actually don't need that much water, so if you just use a small amount, it's going to get a little cooler more quickly, so it's less likely to burn, but then also might cool down more quickly. So
that's true. So you want a good in between. I used to think, you need a big pot of water, but you really don't. You just need enough to steam yourself up, and then throw some herbs in there.
Exactly. So, but that's such a good way, because the thing is that it's almost like treating the sinuses topically, because the sinuses are so hard to work with because they're so deep in there, and there's not a lot of circulation. And so when you're consuming your nettle leaf or whatever, there's not going to be a lot that's circulated through the bloodstream that even contacts that area. So you need to get the herbs into the sinuses.
Yeah, that's right. Get that steam up in there. Yeah. And that reminds me of the neti pot, because if you're not too stuck, if it's really stuck, it's hard to use a neti pot. But if your nose isn't too stuck up, then you can use the neti pot to just rinse, you're physically rinsing pollen and dirt and stuff out of your sinuses. Yeah. And so that is something to remember, and you can just soothe yourself that way. Yeah. Yeah,
totally. Do you ever put herbs in your neti rinses?
Sometimes. Usually I just do the salt, but I do have a blend at home. I think it has some plantain in it. So those soothing vulnerary herbs that will feel good in the nose, so nothing too drying.
Yeah. So it's kind of a different strategy than just drinking your nettle tea or taking reishi. And the other thing I think of for the stuck sinuses is the really pungent herbs too, like cayenne pepper or horseradish or fire cider. It's as long as you're not too overheated. There's some people that tend to get overheated easily, or if they're that, bright red face, super itchy eyes, and the stuck sinuses, you want to be careful and not overheat things. But if especially if somebody tends towards on the colder end and they have the stuck sinuses, and like those pungent warming spices can kind of clear things out.
Get things flowing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think it is important though that you do different approaches, because some days the neti pot might be the thing to reach for, but you might not need it every day. And then other days that tea just seems like the right thing to take. And other days the tincture is enough. So I think it's important to keep in mind that you don't have to pick just one.
I know.
And that's also the beauty of it, is you can try different things.
I know. That's like the one thing I wish people understood more, is that it's not like you just have your one thing for allergy season. Like you have a set of different things that can help depending upon what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's just such a different way of thinking about things than like, oh, I'm just going to get like this antihistamine medication or whatever. Like it's so simple, but like herbs, it's more nuanced, and it's like more about actually balancing what's out of balance.
Yes, and also tailoring it to you, which is the cool thing about herbs, is it's not necessarily one size fits all, but like maybe you need a little goldenrod in your blend and other people don't. You know, it's like, it's nice because you can customize it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the thing we didn't talk about though is herbs that are good for that dry, irritated state. So like the itchy eyes, the not a lot of mucus secretion, maybe an irritated feeling in like the respiratory mucosa, or maybe a little bit of a sore throat, like that sort of dry, irritated state. So that's where our demulcent herbs can help. So demulcent meaning herbs that just help to soothe and sort of coat the mucous membranes and have a slippery quality, kind of like oatmeal or okra or aloe vera, and which kind of like soothe and coat the mucous membranes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of your favorites of those?
Well, today I was using the linden, and it's fun because you can really like taste it. Like it makes your water or your tea just a little bit like velvety and a little bit thicker. And so marshmallow leaf is another nice one that you can use. But recently I've just been a linden fan myself. So what are your favorites?
Yeah, I love marshmallow, and I like marshmallow powder. Works best as a powder in my opinion, like mix it. But it's nice to just add a little bit of leaf to tea to give a little bit of that emulsancy. Yeah. But if you want extra emulsancy, like the powder is really good at the root. And you mix that in water and let it sit for at least 10 minutes, ideally like half an hour. Then just mix it and drink it. It's like kind of this strange goopy texture, but also really soothing, and it sort of coats the throat. And it's interesting, there's kind of this like reflex connection between the mucous membranes of the digestive tract and the respiratory system. So if you have like dryness in your respiratory system, it's been well documented that like if you soothe the digestive system with these emulsant herbs, your respiratory system has this reflex connection somehow where it also
just kind of activates it.
Activates the soothing quality in the respiratory tract as well. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Any other herbs we haven't talked about that? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that comes up. Like goldenrod is always interesting because it's like the allergy causer, supposedly, even though in reality it's usually ragweed that people are allergic to, but goldenrod blooms at the same time. People blame the goldenrod, even though it's pollinated by insects, not by the wind like the ragweed, and so.
Yeah, so its pollen is heavier and it's not what's causing it and getting into your system. Right. And it's also so abundant, and I really love working with herbs that are very abundant, and so you don't have to worry about like over harvesting. You know, it's just there's so much of it, and so it's a beautiful thing to be able to use those herbs that are very common in our landscapes.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, but speaking of goldenrod and ragweed, my old teacher Seven Song actually uses ragweed as an allergy season herb. And he believes that it's one of the stronger antihistamine-like effects in the herbal world, which is interesting. You know, it's like people say it's like, what is it, the hair of the dog that they use? It's like, it's like if you, because it's the pollen that causes the allergies. So if you take the leaf and tincture it, there's no pollen in it, and maybe it has some similarities. It kind of like activates your system to have these anti-inflammatory effects.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, nobody in Vermont uses ragweed this way. You can't buy it commercially, but I know from my experience with Seven Song that some people absolutely use it itself as an allergy season sort of remedy.
Okay, maybe I'll have to pick some this summer and try it because there's plenty of it growing at my house.
Exactly. Yeah, but anything else?
I think we've covered a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of different plants you can use, and so don't feel pigeonholed into just doing one or another, but like try different things, see what works for you.
Totally.
Really, that's like the takeaway, I think, is you can customize it.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah.
And best of luck. Let us know if you have any questions.